Welcome, weary traveler. You've left behind the noise of the world and stepped into a realm untouched by time. Here, candlelight dances upon ancient stone walls, and the air carries the soft hum of forgotten lullabies beyond these gates. The night is gentle, and every story is a silver thread, weaving warmth around your heart. So, rest your mind. Let each word be a quiet step into the halls of dreams, until sleep, tender and deep, finds you. You are safe here, and slowly, the world drifts away. Chapter 1. The Path of Gentle Rain. The night had fallen like a sigh upon the world. Clouds, soft and wandering, drifted above the sleeping hills, and the faint hum of rain touched the earth with tender fingers. Each drop carried a rhythm, a lullaby whispered from sky to soil. The world breathed slowly, as though it too were trying to fall asleep. I walked along a narrow path that shimmered beneath the drizzle. The stones were slick and silver, and every step released the faint scent of wet grass and earth. The air was cool but kind, wrapping around me like the memory of a mother's hand. In the distance, a river murmured, its voice low and timeless. The lantern in my hand glowed dimly, its flame flickering with every breath of wind. Golden light swayed across my cloak and painted the mist in shades of amber. I could hear the gentle creak of the handle, the distant song of frogs hidden somewhere in the reeds, and above all, the slow, steady rhythm of rain. They used to call this path the way of letting go, a road said to lead beyond sorrow, to a place where hearts unburdened themselves and found peace again. Some said it was just an old tale, a story told to weary travelers who had lost their way. But tonight, something in the silence drew me onward. I could feel it, quiet and deep, like a promise hidden beneath the rain. With every step, the world grew softer. The trees leaned close, their branches heavy with droplets that sparkled faintly when the lantern light touched them. The leaves whispered, not in words, but in comfort. The ground beneath me pulsed with the rhythm of a living earth, ancient and awake. I passed a wooden bridge. Beneath it, the river curled through the dark, carrying fallen petals and moonlit reflections downstream. I stopped and watched the water move, endless, patient, and free. The current seemed to whisper my name. I leaned on the railing, closed my eyes, and listened. Breathe in, the scent of rain and pine. Breathe out, the ache I'd carried for so long. For a moment, I felt as if the rain were falling through me, washing away the dust of memory. The weight that had sat behind my heart began to ease, like a knot loosening in slow motion. Somewhere ahead, a faint light shimmered pale and silver, unlike the warm glow of my lantern. It was as though the moon had poured itself upon the path. I followed it. The rain grew lighter, turning from drops to mist. It kissed my face like the breath of dawn. The trees opened into a meadow, wide and hushed beneath the night sky. There, among the dew-lessed grasses, a small cottage waited, its windows glowing with gentle light. Smoke rose from the chimney in a thin ribbon, curling upward toward the clouds. I paused at the threshold. The door was made of old oak, etched with symbols that shimmered faintly when I looked too long. Circles, spirals, and lines that reminded me of ripples on still water. The air was warm here, filled with the scent of wood smoke and honey. Without knowing why, I knocked softly. The door opened as if it had been waiting for me. Inside, the light was golden and kind. A fire danced quietly in the hearth, casting shadows that swayed like ghosts of dreams. An old chair sat beside the window, a quilt draped across it, and in the center of the room, a table upon it. A single candle burned. No one was there, yet the place felt alive. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. The sound of rain faded, replaced by the soft crackle of flame. The warmth embraced me. My cloak steamed gently as it dried, and the heaviness of the journey began to dissolve. On the wall hung a painting, faint and old. It showed a vast kingdom veiled in mist, its towers rising from clouds like dreams taking shape. The caption beneath it read, in letters worn by time, "Beyond sadness, there waits a kingdom." I stared at it for a long while, the fire's glow flickering across its surface. There was something achingly familiar in that painted mist, something that stirred behind my ribs, a memory, perhaps, or a calling I had forgotten. Then, from the silence, a voice, soft, kind, and close as breath, whispered, "Rest now, traveler. You have walked far enough for tonight." I turned, but no one stood behind me. Only the shadows swayed, and the candle flame trembled slightly, as if stirred by an unseen sigh. I sank into the chair by the fire. The warmth seeped into my bones, loosening the ache of the road. My eyes grew heavy. The flame blurred. Outside, the rain had stopped. The world was still. The last thing I remember before sleep took me was the whisper of the wind through the chimney, a voice that seemed to hum from some faraway realm, beyond sadness. The kingdom waits, and it remembers your name. The candle flickered once more, and then, softly, I drifted into dreams. Chapter 2. The Door Between Dreams. When I awoke, the rain had stopped, yet the world still shimmered as if it were made of water and light. The little cottage seemed suspended in stillness, a silence so complete it felt alive, like the pause between two breaths. I could hear the faint ticking of embers in the hearth and the soft whisper of the wind pressing against the windows. For a moment, I wasn't sure if I had truly slept or if I had only dreamed that I had fallen asleep. The firelight flickered softly, and the painting on the wall, the one of the mist-veiled kingdom, seemed to have changed. The towers were clearer now, the mist thinner. I could almost see a bridge leading into that painted realm, glowing faintly with moonlight. I rose slowly, my body light, as though the weight of the night before had been left somewhere in the rain. My feet made no sound on the wooden floor. I stood before the painting, drawn to it by something both gentle and inevitable. The brush strokes shimmered faintly, like ripples on a quiet pond. When I reached out, my fingers did not meet canvas. They met air that moved, cool and fluid, as though I had touched the surface of water. A faint sound filled the room, a tone like a distant chime. The candle flame wavered, and then, with the quiet grace of a sigh, the world shifted. The floor beneath me dissolved into mist. The room blurred into shadow and gold. My breath slowed, not with fear but with wonder. I felt weightless, drifting between moments. Between breaths, between dreams, and when the mist cleared, I stood in another place. The sky here was not black, but deep silver, a vast sea of light without stars. Soft petals drifted from unseen trees, glowing faintly as they fell. The air carried the scent of jasmine and rain. Beneath my feet, a path of pale stones wound through an endless meadow, the grass swaying in slow waves as though breathing in the distance. I could hear bells, not loud or calling, but soft and patient, as if marking the rhythm of some eternal lullaby. I took a step forward. The stones were warm beneath my feet. The light around me pulsed gently, matching the beat of my heart. Every sound was slower here, every whisper of wind, every movement of air, as though the world had learned to breathe deeply. It was then I saw her. A woman stood beside the path, cloaked in silver cloth that moved like mist. Her hair was long and pale as moonlight, her face calm and ancient, yet kind. When she looked at me, I felt as though she saw not only my face, but every sorrow I had ever carried, and accepted them all, wordlessly. "You crossed the door between dreams," she said, her voice as soft as falling snow. "Few find it, and fewer still step through." "I didn't mean to," I whispered. "I was only walking." She smiled gently. "No one ever means to. The path calls to those whose hearts are heavy with rain. When the world becomes too loud, it leads them here to the kingdom that waits beyond sadness." Her words moved through me like light through water. "Then this place is real?" I asked, my voice trembling softly, not from fear, but from the fragile hope that it might be. "It is as real as the ache you carried," she said, "and as fragile as the breath you take now. Here, sorrow softens. Here, the soul remembers what it has forgotten, how to rest." The woman raised her hand. From her palm, a thread of silver light unfurled, weaving through the air like silk in a slow breeze. It touched my chest, warm and weightless, and spread through me, dissolving the dull ache I hadn't known still lingered there. In that moment, I felt everything become quieter inside me. The thoughts that used to tumble endlessly now drifted like leaves in a gentle stream. My heart slowed to match the rhythm of this place, calm, unhurried, infinite. "Follow the sound of the bells," she said softly. "They will lead you deeper into the kingdom. Each tone will bring you closer to what you seek, though you may not yet know its name." Her form began to fade, the edges of her figure dissolving into light. "Do not fear the quiet," she whispered. "It is the voice of healing." And then she was gone. Only the faint shimmer of moonlight left where she had stood. I looked toward the horizon. The sound of the bells rose again, slow, distant, beautiful. The path curved ahead, winding through meadows where light fell like rain. I walked on, and with every step, the world seemed to open. I saw ponds reflecting starlight that didn't exist, trees whose branches hummed softly in the breeze, and rivers made not of water but of memory, flowing with the laughter and tears of forgotten days as I passed. I caught glimpses of shapes within the mist, faces smiling faintly, hands reaching, eyes closing in peace. They were dreams, I realized, fragments of hearts finding rest, and somewhere far beyond, in the endless silver light, a city shimmered faintly, towers rising from clouds, bridges made of moonbeams. The kingdom waited, silent and kind. I stopped on the path and breathed deeply. The air was warm. The silence was vast, and for the first time in years, I felt no need to hurry anywhere. I closed my eyes, and listened to the bells, their rhythm as gentle as a heartbeat. Each sound folded around me like a blanket, soft and endless. And then, quietly, I whispered into the night, "I'm ready to go home." Chapter 3. The Garden of Quiet Stars. The path led me onward through the silver meadow until the bells became softer, blending with the sound of a distant stream. The air shimmered faintly, as though light were breathing. My lantern had vanished somewhere between moments, but I didn't need it anymore. Everything here seemed to glow from within: grass, air, even the spaces between the leaves. I walked slowly, my steps sinking into the rhythm of this world. There was no sense of time here, no hurry, no night or day, only a quiet flow that carried me forward, gentle as the current of a dream. Eventually, the path curved toward a grove of trees, their trunks tall and smooth, their branches arched like cathedrals made of moonlight. Between them, the ground was carpeted with petals that shone faintly blue. The air was cool and fragrant, touched with the scent of water lilies, and there, at the grove's heart, waited a pool. It was round and still, framed by white stones that pulsed softly with light. The surface of the water was mirror-like, but not reflective. It seemed to draw in light rather than give it back. I could hear the faint hum of it, a vibration that matched the quiet thrum in my chest. The bells had faded, replaced by another sound, the soft chime of droplets falling from the branches above. Each one landed on the pool and sent ripples spreading outward, luminous and slow, like rings of moonlight on silk. I stepped closer, the world around me hushed and expectant. As I knelt beside the pool, I saw something move beneath its surface. Faint images, flowing like memories half remembered. At first, they were shapeless glimmers, shades of light and warmth. But then I saw moments, a hand reaching out for mine, a field under sunlight, laughter echoing through an open window, the face of someone I once loved and lost. The images drifted past me, soft as the surface of sleep. And then I realized this was a garden of stars, not in the sky, but beneath the water. Every memory, every soul that had passed through this realm left a single star behind. They glowed beneath the surface like living constellations, shimmering with quiet peace. A voice rose beside me, gentle, nearly part of the wind. "Do you see how they rest?" I turned and found an old man sitting on a nearby stone. His robe was woven of pale threads, and his beard flowed like river foam. His eyes were not weary, but endlessly kind. The eyes of one who had watched many moons rise and fade without sadness. "Yes," I said softly. "They look like memories." He nodded. "They are. Every sorrow you've carried leaves behind a seed of light once it has been released. The heart cannot heal until it has wept its stars into the pool." He leaned forward, his hands resting upon his knees. "Would you like to lay one down?" I hesitated. "I don't know how." The old man smiled, his face creasing like parchment warmed by sun. "You already do. Close your eyes. Breathe. Think of the sorrow that still lingers, not to cling to it, but to thank it for what it taught you. When you are ready, let it drift away." His voice was slow, rhythmic, hypnotic, every word like a ripple in still water. I obeyed. I closed my eyes. I thought of the weight I had carried for so long, the nights of silence, the ache that never had a name, the feeling of standing beneath rain and not knowing if I would ever feel warmth again. I let the memory come, not to drown me, but to pass through me. And as I breathed, I felt it begin to dissolve. The heaviness melted, the edges softened, until it was nothing more than a faint light in my chest. Then, gently, it drifted downward, as if leaving me, and I knew it had found its way to the pool. When I opened my eyes, a new star had appeared beneath the water, small, soft, golden dot. It pulsed once, twice, and then joined the constellation below. The old man nodded slowly. Another sorrow transformed. The pool remembers all who pass, and so, in time, it becomes a sky of peace. I sat there in silence beside him, watching the stars beneath the water breathe in rhythm with the world. The air was warm now, filled with a low hum, the song of the healed. Will they ever fade? I asked quietly. No, he said. They do not fade, they rest. And from their rest, they shine into others who wander lost. The sorrow you've released will one day guide someone else home. His words settled in me like the last note of a lullaby. After a while, he rose, his movements slow and graceful. Go now, he said. The bells will return. They will guide you deeper, but remember this place. When you next feel heavy, close your eyes and breathe as you did here. The garden will answer. He smiled once more, then turned toward the trees, his figure dissolving into the silver air until only the echo of his presence remained. I looked again at the pool, at the thousands of stars, resting quietly beneath the surface, and for the first time, I felt something within me open, vast and still. The bells began again, faint but certain, calling me onward. I rose, took one last look at the garden of quiet stars, and followed their sound deeper into the kingdom. Each step was lighter than the last. Each breath felt like dawn breaking softly within me, and as I walked, I whispered to the wind, not in sorrow, but in peace. I understand now. The stars were always waiting for me to let them shine. Chapter 4. The Bridge of Forgotten Names, the bells, drew me onward. Their melodies slow and liquid, as though carried on a current too gentle to disturb the stillness. The meadow gave way to hills wrapped in fog, their shapes soft and weightless beneath the silver sky. My footsteps made no sound now. The earth here was like velvet, and even the wind seemed to move in whispers. I walked for what could have been hours or moments in this place. Time had dissolved like sugar in warm water. Then, through the mist, I saw it. A bridge, it arched over a great expanse of flowing light. Not water, not air, but something in between. The surface below shimmered with countless reflections, like the memories I had seen in the garden. Except these were pale, almost transparent, as though fading from existence. The bridge itself was woven of marble and moonlight. The rails were carved with names, thousands of them, some clear, some worn away, their letters soft as sighs. The light from below made them shimmer faintly, as if the names themselves breathed. I paused at the foot of the bridge, feeling a deep, quiet fill my chest. There was something sacred about this place, not in grandeur, but in gentleness, a place where even grief seemed to kneel in reverence. The bells grew softer, replaced by a sound like the turning of pages. I realized then that the air was full of whispers, faint voices carried by the wind, names spoken softly and then released again, like ripples fading in still water. I placed my hand on the railing. The surface was warm, alive. When I looked closer, I saw that some of the names glowed faintly, as if remembering themselves for just a moment before returning to rest. A voice, familiar yet distant, spoke beside me. It was the same woman I had met beyond the door between dreams. Her form shimmered gently beside me, her eyes filled with quiet understanding. "This is the bridge of forgotten names," she said softly. "Every traveler who crosses must leave behind what no longer needs to be carried." "What are the names?" I asked. "They are the echoes of who we once believed we were," she whispered. "All the faces we wore, all the burdens we called ourselves. Sorrow carves many names upon the heart, but peace asks us to let them go." Her gaze turned toward the light flowing beneath the bridge. "Those who cling to their names linger there between forgetting and becoming. Those who release them find the path forward." The thought filled me with both fear and wonder. How do I know what name to let go of? She smiled, her expression like moonlight over still water. "The one that still aches when you whisper it." I closed my eyes. The air grew warm against my skin. I could feel the faint hum of the bridge beneath my feet, a pulse that matched my own in the darkness of my mind. I heard it, the echo of a name I hadn't spoken aloud in years. It wasn't my given name, but the one carved by loss and guilt. The one I'd carried through sleepless nights, whispered when no one could hear. I exhaled slowly. The sound of it trembled through me. "I release you," I whispered to the wind. The name left my lips like a feather caught in a slow current. For a moment, it hung there, glowing faintly, then drifted downward into the river of light. As it touched the surface, the current rippled with color, and the light expanded in a silent bloom, like dawn unfolding underwater. The woman's voice was quiet, almost reverent. "Now, the bridge knows you." I opened my eyes. The air was clearer now. The fog had thinned, revealing the far side of the bridge, where trees shimmered gold instead of silver, and the light of dawn seemed to sleep just beyond their branches as I began to cross. The names beneath my hand glowed faintly in greeting. Each one felt like a heartbeat, a farewell, a blessing, a promise. The bridge hummed softly underfoot, its rhythm slow and certain, as though carrying me forward with infinite patience. Halfway across, I stopped and looked down. The river of light below flowed endlessly, and in it, I could see shapes drifting, faces serene and weightless, each one smiling faintly before fading into the current. It was then I understood. These were all the selves that people had once been, every version that had carried sorrow, every name whispered in grief. Here they rested. At the far side, the woman waited. She reached out her hand as I approached, her eyes calm as ever. "You've crossed," she said softly. "You have left behind what no longer belongs to you. What remains will guide you deeper." She placed her hand over my heart. A soft warmth bloomed there, spreading through my chest, a pulse that felt both human and eternal. "From this moment on," she said, "you will no longer walk toward the kingdom. You will walk within it." Her words lingered like perfume in still air. And then she was gone again, her figure dissolving into soft radiance. I turned back once, looking across the bridge. The mist was closing again, slow and kind, swallowing the path behind me. The bells had changed tone, deeper now, resonant, like a heartbeat beneath the world. When I looked forward, the trees beyond glowed golden, their leaves drifting like embers in slow motion. Somewhere among them, I thought I could hear the sound of running water and laughter, gentle and free. I stepped into the golden light. The bridge vanished behind me, as if it had only ever existed between two breaths. And in its place, the air whispered, calm, endless, sure, you are not what you have lost. You are what remains when loss has gone to rest. Chapter 5. The river that dreams of dawn. Beyond the bridge, the air changed. The silver hush of the night gave way to a soft warmth, as though dawn were breathing somewhere close but not yet born. The trees here were golden, not bright, not blinding, but softly radiant, their light trembling like candle flames caught in a gentle wind. I followed the sound of running water through the grove. The earth beneath my feet felt alive, not soil, but something tender, like woven silk that sighed under each step. The leaves whispered in tones I could almost understand, a lullaby older than words. And then, through the shifting glow, I saw it a river, winding slow and luminous through the heart of the kingdom. It was wide and calm, its surface glowing like melted moonlight. The air above it shimmered faintly, as if the river exhaled dreams instead of mist. I knelt at the bank. The water was not water at all. It was clearer than glass, thicker than air, something between memory and light. When I leaned closer, I saw within it not reflections, but visions, scenes flowing like a gentle story, children laughing under falling petals. An old man resting his head in a field of stars. A woman tracing constellations in the palm of her hand. Every image drifted by with infinite patience, never rushing, never ending. I reached out, and the surface rippled, warm against my fingers, humming faintly. As though the river itself had a heartbeat. A voice came from the water, tender and low. You have crossed sorrow. You have left your names. Now you must remember what it is to dream. The ripples widened, and a shape began to form, a figure of light rising from the current. It was neither man nor woman, neither old nor young. Their body was woven entirely of flowing silver, as though the river had chosen for a moment to take a shape. When they spoke again, their voice echoed in both sound and feeling, resonating softly through my chest. This is the river that dreams of dawn, they said. Every dream that has ever brought peace begins here. It carries the wishes of those who dared to rest. They reached out a hand, their fingers dripping with soft light. You may drink if you wish to remember what peace feels like when it breathes within you. I hesitated. Will it change me? The figure smiled, a gesture both human and infinite. No, it will only remind you of what you have always been. So I cupped my hands and lifted the water to my lips. It was warm, not with heat, but with gentleness. As it touched my tongue, The taste was like the air before rain, like the first moment of quiet after weeping. My body relaxed instantly. My chest, which had always carried a faint ache, loosened. My thoughts slowed until they were nothing but rhythm, soft, steady, endless. And then the world began to fade, not into darkness, but into light, pale and comforting. I felt myself drifting, not away, but inward. The river was no longer in front of me. It was around me, through me. I was floating, and the current carried me with infinite care. Every heartbeat was a ripple, every breath a wave, and within the current, I saw visions, not memories of the past, but fragments of something purer, a field of soft white flowers stretching into eternity, the laughter of those who had already crossed before me, lanterns rising into the air like slow stars. I felt myself among them, not as an observer, but as a part of the light itself. Every wound I'd carried had dissolved into something luminous. Every loss softened into love. The voice returned, gentler now, echoing through the water. You see now why the kingdom waits. Not to erase your sorrow, but to let it rest until it becomes light. I drifted there for what felt like an eternity of peace. The river hummed softly, its rhythm slower than time. And within it, I began to hear something beneath the surface, faint. Melodic, alive, it was the sound of dawn, not light. Not birdsong, but the feeling of awakening before the sun touches the world. I rose slowly from the water's edge, though I could not tell when I had left it. My clothes were dry, my body weightless. The river still glowed, but now its light was tinged with pale gold, as though morning had begun to bloom within it. Across the current, I saw a small boat waiting, carved from wood so dark it seemed to drink the light around it. At its bow, a lantern burned with a flame that did not flicker. The silver figure stood beside it, their form becoming transparent. The river will carry you now, they said. Follow where it flows. You will not need to steer. The current knows your heart better than you do. I stepped into the boat. The moment my feet touched its surface, it began to drift, slow, silent, graceful. The lantern light swayed, painting golden circles upon the glowing water. I looked back once more. The grove shimmered softly behind me, the trees whispering their farewell. The figure of light raised their hand, and then melted back into the river, their form dissolving into gentle ripples. The current carried me forward, past curves and bends where petals floated like tiny stars. The air was warmer here, filled with the faint scent of morning rain. Above, the first hues of dawn began to spread, not orange or pink, but soft gold and lavender, blending like a sigh dot as I drifted. I felt my heartbeat slow to match the rhythm of the water. My eyes grew heavy, but not with fatigue, with peace. The world rocked me like a cradle, the sound of the river a lullaby older than time. And as I closed my eyes, a voice within the dawn whispered, "Sleep, traveler of the sorrowless path. The kingdom dreams through you now." The boat drifted onward, and the river, dreaming still, carried me toward the horizon of light. Chapter 6. The Lanterns of Memory. When I awoke, the river had grown still. The boat floated through a sea of mist, so pale it seemed woven from moonlight and breath. The water beneath was glass-like, unmoving, a mirror without reflection. Only the lantern at the bow remained alive, its warm light trembling softly in the endless hush. I sat upright slowly, feeling no weight, no urgency, only calm. The air was cool and fragrant, filled with the faint scent of lilies and rain. My hands rested in my lap, and I noticed something new. A small, golden thread coiled gently around my wrist, glowing faintly. I remembered the woman at the bridge, her touch over my heart. Her words, "You now walk within the kingdom." The boat drifted forward, slow as a heartbeat. The mist began to thin, and ahead, shapes emerged, faint at first, then growing clearer. Lanterns, hundreds of them. Thousands, perhaps. They floated in the air like fireflies, suspended at different heights, some near the surface of the river, others rising high into the mist. Each one glowed with a color of its own, soft amber, pale blue, silver, rose, and gold. The sight took my breath away. It felt like drifting through a constellation that had forgotten the sky and chosen to live among water instead. As my boat passed between them, I could hear faint sounds, whispers, laughter, sighs, songs without words. Every lantern, I realized, carried a memory, not mine alone, but the collective heartbeat of the kingdom, a luminous archive of every soul that had ever released its pain and become light. The river widened, forming a great circular lake. At its center stood a single tree, tall, elegant, its trunk white as pearl. Its branches were covered not in leaves but in more lanterns, swaying gently like fruit glowing from within. The roots of the tree dipped into the water, sending ripples across the mirrored surface. My boat glided to a stop at the water's edge. I stepped out, the surface beneath me firm, though it looked like water, cool, smooth, luminous. The lantern at the bow dimmed as if bowing in farewell. I walked toward the great tree. The lanterns nearest to me flickered brighter as I passed, whispering in voices almost too soft to hear. Words formed between the murmurs. Remember, rest, forgive. When I reached the trunk, I placed my hand against it. The surface was warm, alive, pulsing faintly with light. A low hum traveled through my fingers, up my arm, into my chest, syncing with the rhythm of my heartbeat. Then a voice came, as soft as moonlight falling on still water. "You've crossed the river of dreams," it said. "Now the kingdom offers you memory, not as burden, but as song." I looked up. A figure stood at the base of the tree, cloaked in flowing gold that shimmered with threads of dawn. Their face was hidden by a hood, but their voice was filled with tenderness. "These are the lanterns of memory," they continued. "Each one holds a moment that once carried sorrow, now transformed into peace. To truly rest, you must light one of your own." I felt something stir within me, a familiarity faint but lingering. I asked softly. The figure extended a hand, and in their palm appeared a small flame, barely visible, fragile as a breath. "From your heart," they whispered. "A single spark of remembrance, given freely, not in pain, but in love." I took the flame. It didn't burn. It pulsed, warm, alive, forgiving. The figure gestured toward the branches above. "Hold it until the memory comes. You'll know when to release it." I closed my eyes. The world hushed. My breathing slowed. And then, like a ripple rising from still water, a memory surfaced. A younger version of myself, sitting beside a window on a rainy night, The air was heavy with silence. My reflection in the glass looked distant, almost ghost-like. I remembered how it had felt, the loneliness, the quiet ache of waiting for something that never arrived. But now, as I looked at that memory, I saw it differently. The stillness that once felt empty now looked like tenderness. The rain wasn't sadness, it was cleansing. And I, sitting there alone, was simply learning to listen to the quiet. The ache softened into warmth. The scene faded gently. When I opened my eyes, the flame in my hand had changed. It was brighter now, tinged with silver, as if made of both moonlight and forgiveness. The figure nodded. Now let it rise. I held the flame aloft, and it lifted from my palm weightless, floating upward like a feather. The air shimmered as it ascended, and the nearest lantern opened as if welcoming it. The flames slipped inside, and the lantern bloomed with light, glowing gold and soft rose. A sound filled the air, a note pure and low, like the first tone of a distant bell. One by one, the other lanterns responded, their lights pulsing gently in harmony. The entire lake seemed to breathe with me. The figure stepped back, their golden cloak merging with the glow of the tree. Every lantern here once belonged to someone who crossed the kingdom. They are not lost, nor gone. They shine so others may find their way. I looked around. The lights swayed slowly, and in their rhythm I could feel countless hearts, all healed, all resting. The voice of the figure came once more, softer now, fading into the hush. Each sorrow you heal becomes a light for another. That is how the kingdom grows. The lanterns flickered one last time, then settled into stillness. The mist above began to shift, and I saw a faint path of light forming beyond the tree, a trail leading deeper, glowing softly with hues of dawn. I turned to the water once more. My reflection looked different now, calm, eyes bright with peace, edges glowing faintly with light. And as I stepped toward the next path, the tree whispered behind me, "Carry your lantern within. Wherever you walk, the kingdom will follow." Chapter 7. The House of Still Winds. The path ahead was woven from light and mist, a ribbon stretching into quiet infinity. Each step I took sent out a soft ripple beneath my feet, as though I were walking on the surface of a dream. The air was gentle, neither cool nor warm, but tender, wrapping around me like a breath that never quite ended. I followed the luminous trail, carrying within me the soft echo of the lantern's hum. Every few moments, I felt that golden thread around my wrist pulse, faintly a heartbeat that wasn't entirely my own. The kingdom was alive, breathing with me. After what felt like neither hours nor minutes, I saw it at the end of the path stood a small house, pale stone, roof of silver shingles, windows glowing with steady candlelight. It was built beside a slope of whispering grass, where wind passed gently but made no sound. Above it, clouds drifted like slow rivers, and the moon hung large, patient, and knowing. The closer I came, the quieter the world became. Even my heartbeat softened. The air seemed to still itself, as if the entire realm were listening. A carved wooden sign swung gently from the porch beam. On it were the words, written in delicate silver script, "The House of Still Winds." I stepped closer, hesitated, then pushed the door open. Inside, everything glowed softly. The walls were lined with shelves of folded fabrics, pale blues and grays, the colors of dusk. A single chair sat by the window, facing a landscape of mist and moonlight. A pot of tea steamed quietly on the table, releasing a scent like wild herbs and rain. And there, seated by the hearth, was an old man. His hair was white as frost, his robe simple linen, and his eyes, when they turned toward me, held the calm of mountains reflected in water. He smiled without speaking, and gestured toward the chair across from him. I obeyed, sitting slowly, feeling the wood creak softly beneath me. For a while, we said nothing. Only the faint hiss of the teapot filled the silence. Then, in a voice that seemed to come from both him and the room itself, he said, "You've come far, child of sadness." His words didn't wound, they soothed, as if naming something I had long since forgiven. "Yes," I whispered, "though I no longer feel sad." He nodded, folding his hands. "Sadness is not an enemy. It's a teacher who leaves quietly when her lesson is learned." I looked at the fire, which burned without smoke or sound. And what lesson was that? The old man leaned back, his gaze turning toward the window. That even stillness has movement. Even silence has song. The winds of the soul never truly stop, they only rest. His words drifted through the air like music that didn't need to be heard to be felt. Then he stood, slow and deliberate, and crossed the room. From a shelf, he took down a long strip of pale cloth. It shimmered faintly, as though woven from moonlight and breath. "This house keeps the winds that once carried sorrow," he said. "We listen to them until they forget their storm." He handed the cloth to me. "Would you like to hear your own?" I hesitated. "My wind." He smiled gently. "Every soul has one. It's the sigh that leaves you when you let go." I took the fabric in my hands. It was soft, almost not there, lighter than air, yet alive with quiet warmth. "Close your eyes," he whispered. I did. The world hushed completely. Then, from somewhere deep inside, I heard it, a faint rustle, like a breeze moving through tall grass. It wasn't sound exactly, more a feeling, a presence brushing through my thoughts. The wind carried whispers of moments I had forgotten, laughter, tears, silence, forgiveness. Each one passed softly, like pages turning in a book that no longer needed to be read. The wind grew calmer, slower, until it became a steady hum, the rhythm of peace. When I opened my eyes, the old man was standing at the window, looking out at the silver hills. The cloth I held had faded into light, dissolving into the air around me. He turned and smiled. "Your wind has remembered its song." I breathed in deeply. The air tasted different now, softer, cleaner, as though the world had just exhaled. Outside, the landscape shimmered. The grass bent slightly, though there was no sound, and I realized the wind was moving again, invisible, alive, free. The old man poured me a cup of tea and set it before me. "Drink," he said. "You'll need rest before the next journey." I lifted the cup. The tea was warm, its taste like wild honey and rainwater. As I drank, I felt my eyelids grow heavy, my body light. The fire dimmed to embers. The candles softened to halos. The world blurred into gold and silver. The old man's voice reached me one last time. fading into the edge of sleep. Remember, peace is not the absence of movement. It is the rhythm beneath all things. The room dissolved around me, and I drifted once more through quiet, through warmth, through the still winds that whispered me deeper into the kingdom that waited beyond sadness. Chapter 8. The Meadow of Forgotten Names. I awoke to the sound of distant bells, not loud or sharp, but deep and slow, each tone rolling through the air like a ripple over still water. The echo of their song drifted gently through my body, calling me out of dreams, yet letting me stay within one. The ground beneath me was soft, cool grass brushed against my fingertips, and when I opened my eyes, I found myself lying in a wide meadow bathed in the pale glow of dawn. The horizon stretched endlessly, fading into shades of silver and lavender. The air shimmered with a faint mist, as though every blade of grass held its own little piece of the morning sky. A soft breeze stirred, carrying scents of rain-soaked earth and something sweeter, perhaps wildflowers that bloomed only in dreams. The sound of the wind through the grass was like quiet breathing, the steady rhythm of a sleeping world. I sat up slowly. My hand brushed against something smooth and cool. When I looked down, I saw a small stone half buried in the grass. Words were carved into it, faint, worn, almost erased by time. I traced them with my fingers, but I could not read them. All around me, the meadow was scattered with such stones. Each one carried marks, names, perhaps, or memories, or songs, now softened into whispers by the endless passing of wind. As I walked forward, I realized the meadow was alive, not with birds or insects, but with murmurs. Faint voices rose from the stones, blending into the air like the hum of a faraway choir. Some wept, some laughed, some only sighed, yet none sounded lost, only resting. It was then that I heard a softer voice, close behind me. "Be gentle," it said, "for these are the names that once carried too much weight." I turned. A woman stood there, her figure wrapped in pale blue robes that flowed like mist around her feet. Her hair was white and long, and tiny flowers bloomed where her steps touched the ground. Her eyes were neither young nor old, only full of understanding. I bowed my head slightly. "What is this place?" She smiled faintly. "The Meadow of Forgotten Names. Every traveler who reaches this far carries names they once gave themselves. Names of pain, of longing, of doubt. This is where those names come to rest." She knelt beside one of the stones and placed her palm upon it. The carvings brightened faintly, just for a moment, then faded again. "Every name once burned with meaning," she continued softly. "But when its story is healed, it becomes light and dissolves into the soil." I walked beside her, my footsteps barely disturbing the grass. "And what happens to those who forget their names? They remember who they were before they ever needed one," she said, her smile serene. The bells rang again in the distance, slow, steady, echoing across the fields. The sound filled the air like a heartbeat. I closed my eyes and let it move through me. The woman's voice grew softer. "Tell me, traveler, what names have you carried?" Her question drifted through me like wind through silk. I felt something stir, not a thought, but a feeling. Rising gently from the quiet parts of my being, I whispered, I have called myself lost. I have called myself not enough. I have called myself forgotten. She nodded, her eyes kind. Then you have carried heavy names. Would you like to let them rest? I hesitated. If I do, will I forget who I am? Her answer came like a lullaby. No, you will remember more, truly. She reached into her robe and drew out a small, silver bowl filled with water that shimmered as though stars floated within it. This is the water of release, she said. Each drop holds the reflection of what has already been forgiven. She offered it to me. Speak your names into it, and the meadow will remember them for you, so you may travel without their weight. I held the bowl close to my heart. The surface trembled, not from the wind, but from something within me, one by one. I spoke the names I had carried softly, slowly, letting them flow into the water. Each name left my lips like a sigh, and as it did, a faint glow rippled across the bowl's surface, then faded into stillness. When the last name was spoken, the woman nodded. Now pour it upon the earth. I knelt and tilted the bowl, letting the glowing water spill onto the grass. As it touched the soil, light spread outward in quiet waves. Flowers bloomed where it flowed, small white, trembling with dew. The stones nearby began to hum faintly, as though welcoming new company. The woman smiled. Now you are nameless, and in being so, you are whole. I looked at my hands. The golden thread around my wrist was gone. In its place, faint light pulsed beneath my skin, steady and calm. The meadow shimmered brighter, as if morning were arriving for the first time. The bells in the distance grew softer, their rhythm slowing, until they became the rhythm of my breathing. The woman began to walk away, her robes trailing blossoms through the grass. As she vanished into mist, her final words lingered in the air. When you no longer carry your name, the kingdom will call you by your true one. I lay back upon the meadow, the sky above me vast and silver. The whispering stones quieted, the breeze softened, and my eyelids grew heavy once more. I drifted between waking and sleep, between the memory of names and the peace that waded beyond them. And somewhere far away, I thought I heard the kingdom sigh, not with sorrow, but with gentle relief, as though it too had just remembered how to rest. Chapter 9. The Garden Beneath the Moon. When I opened my eyes again, twilight had returned, not the twilight of endings, but one that glowed softly, suspended between dream and waking. The air shimmered faintly, full of floating motes of silver light. I found myself standing on a quiet stone path that wound through a garden vast enough to hold the sky itself. Above, the moon hung enormous and low, so close that its light seemed to breathe across the flowers, turning their petals into silk. The garden was silent, yet alive. Each plant, each leaf, each blade of grass seemed to hum with unseen energy, a deep and tranquil music that moved beneath the surface of hearing. The air was perfumed with something indescribable, not one scent, but many blending into harmony. Lavender, jasmine, dew, and the faint sweetness of rain remembered by earth. I began to walk slowly, each step echoing faintly on the pale stones. The path curved around pools of still water that mirrored the moon perfectly. In those reflections, I saw more than my face. I saw fragments of moments from my journey, the rain-drenched bridge, the river of dreams, the lanterns, the old man with the still winds, the meadow of forgotten names. Each scene shimmered faintly and then dissolved into ripples, leaving only the reflection of the moon again. Somewhere ahead, I heard a quiet, rhythmic sound, like a soft brush sweeping against silk. Following it, I found a woman kneeling beside a bed of luminous flowers. She wore robes the color of night clouds, and her hair shimmered with strands of moonlight. In her hands, she held a small watering vessel, and as she poured, the liquid within glowed faintly, starlight in liquid form. She looked up as I approached, and her smile was like a secret kept by the stars. "Welcome," she said softly, her voice flowing like water over smooth stone. "Few arrive here, still awake." I bowed my head slightly. "Where am I?" Her eyes, bright as silver glass, lingered on me. "This is the garden beneath the moon. It lies at the heart of the kingdom. Here, all that once hurt learns to bloom again." I looked around. The flowers seemed to sway gently, though there was no breeze. Their colors were otherworldly, soft whites that glowed from within, blues that shifted like dreams, faint purples that deepened as you watched. She beckoned me closer. "Every traveler who crosses sadness leaves behind a seed. Here, those seeds awaken. Come, let us find yours." She led me down a narrow path bordered by vines that twinkled like stars fallen into ivy. We stopped before a small patch of soil near the edge of a moonlit pond. The ground was bare, but warm. She knelt and pressed her palm against it. Instantly, a faint glow bloomed beneath her fingers. "This is where your sorrow was planted," she said softly. "You left it long ago, without knowing." I felt my heart flutter, not with fear, but with recognition. The warmth rising from the soil was familiar, almost like a heartbeat. "What happens now?" I asked. She smiled and handed me the watering vessel. "You tend to it, but not with effort, with peace." I knelt beside her, feeling the earth pulse faintly under my palm. Slowly, I poured the glowing water over the soil. It sank in without sound, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the ground stirred. A small stem unfurled, pale and trembling. It grew with graceful slowness, reaching upward toward the moon. Petals opened, one by one, revealing a flower unlike any I had ever seen, translucent, luminous, pulsing faintly with golden light. The woman watched in silence. "That is your heart, reborn from what it once feared to feel." I touched the edge of a petal. It was warm, soft, alive. The light within it pulsed in rhythm with my breath. Tears rose to my eyes, but they were not heavy tears. They carried no ache, only release, the kind that falls quietly, leaving peace behind. The woman stood and gestured toward the pond. "Look." I turned. The surface of the water had changed. My reflection was no longer shadowed. It glowed faintly, surrounded by soft radiance, like the moon mirrored in human form. "You see now," she said, "the kingdom was never apart from you. It grew within your sorrow, waiting for the moment you would stop running from it." Her words drifted through me like the gentlest wind, and for a long while I simply stood there, breathing with the garden, feeling the still rhythm of all things. Finally, she spoke again. "The kingdom is nearly complete for you. Only one path remains, The one that returns you home, home. I asked, she nodded. Back to the waking world, but with the kingdom inside you. You will not lose this peace. You will carry it as light beneath your ribs, as calm beneath your voice. She stepped closer, touching my forehead lightly with her fingertips. The touch sent a ripple of warmth through my entire being. When you dream again, she whispered, the moon will recognize you. The garden began to fade, its colors softening into light. The moon above brightened until it became the only thing left. Vast, tender, endless. I closed my eyes. The scent of flowers lingered. The silence deepened. The sound of the soft, invisible wind brushed against my thoughts like a lullaby. And as I drifted once more into the glowing dark, I felt it, the kingdom breathing with me, the garden within me blooming quietly beneath the moon. Chapter 10. The Kingdom That Waits Beyond Sadness. When the light returned, it came as a whisper, gentle, golden, and endlessly soft. It touched my face like the first warmth of dawn after a night that had lasted a lifetime. I breathed it in, and it felt like home. For a long while, I lay still, eyes closed, listening to the quiet hum that surrounded me. It was not silence. Not exactly, more like the steady pulse of something living and kind. My chest rose and fell with it. Every breath felt like the kingdom itself exhaling peace. When I finally opened my eyes, I found myself standing on the edge of an open field. The horizon shimmered faintly, half night and half day. Above me, the sky was both stars and light, as if the sun and the moon had agreed to share the heavens. A soft path stretched ahead, winding between tall, slow-moving reeds that glowed with silver edges. Dewdrops hung on them like tiny orbs of glass, reflecting both the stars above and the earth below. I stepped forward, barefoot. The ground beneath me warm and alive. The air was filled with gentle echoes, faint laughter, lullabies, a single flute playing somewhere far away. Every sound blended into the next, a symphony of softness that asked for nothing and gave everything. As I walked, the memories of my journey began to gather around me. The bridge of rain, the river of dreams, the lanterns of memory, the house of still winds, the meadow of forgotten names, the garden beneath the moon. Each appeared like a translucent vision, drifting beside me as if made of starlight. They moved in rhythm with my breath, not vanishing, not clinging, simply accompanying. For the first time, I understood. These places were never separate lands. They were rooms within me. Each sorrow I had touched, each silence I had embraced, each forgiveness I had offered, they were the bricks of this kingdom. Rising softly inside my heart, ahead, I saw a figure waiting at the end of the path. Their form shimmered, part light, part shadow, part reflection of everything I had met along the way. As I drew closer, I recognized them. They were me, the self that had once wept by candlelight, that had crossed the bridge alone, that had whispered prayers into the wind. But now their face was serene, their eyes luminous with calm. We stood before one another, breathing in unison. Have you seen it? My reflection asked, though its lips did not move. Yes, I whispered. The kingdom, they smiled. Then you know the truth. I nodded, though the truth felt too vast for words. Still, it spoke itself through me. The kingdom was never waiting beyond sadness. It was waiting within it, beneath every ache, behind every tear, inside every silence that I feared to face. My reflection's gaze softened. Then your journey is complete. The dream can rest now. A quiet wind passed through us, warm and infinite. The reeds around us swayed, and the air shimmered with dusts of light, golden, rose, and blue. I felt my reflection begin to dissolve, not in loss, but in merging, their light flowing into me like water returning to its source. The warmth spread through my body, filling every part of me until I could no longer tell where I ended and the kingdom began. The world grew brighter, but not harshly so. The light had weight, comfort, purpose, like a blanket drawn over the soul. In the distance, the bells began to ring, again, the same slow, patient tones I had heard in the meadow, though now they sounded closer, clearer, echoing through my heart. Each chime whispered a word: rest, breathe, you are home. The landscape around me shimmered once more, shifting between dream and reality. I felt the weight of my own body returning, the faint rhythm of my heartbeat, the warmth of the world beyond sleep. Yet the peace did not fade. I understood now that awakening would not take me away from the kingdom. It would simply open my eyes to find it everywhere, in the hush before rain, in the kindness of a voice, in the stillness of breathing. The voice that had once guided me, soft and unseen, returned one last time. Sleep and waking are not different doors, it murmured. Both lead home when you walk them with peace. The light settled around me, warm and endless. My eyelids grew heavy once more, though not from weariness, from tranquility. I lay down in the soft grass. Above, the sky pulsed gently between night and dawn. The last thing I felt was the pulse of the kingdom moving through me, gentle, eternal, whole, and in that final breath before dream claimed me again, I heard a whisper carried by the quiet wind. You are the kingdom that waits beyond sadness. Everything faded into gold. Everything became still. Everything became peace.